Hello, it is Monday, April 24th, 2023 at 9:13 a.m. Eastern Time, USA. I'm Mitch Miller. This is my video journal. Today I want to start by releasing a little bit of intel that I gathered from Denmark when I was staying in Denmark for multiple months, fleeing the country, trying to seek asylum and speak with the media about white-collar crime in my investigations into certain pharmaceutical companies and other companies. So I made a series of videos. You can look at that as a roadmap of a person entering psychosis, having a psychotic break, a schizoaffective disorder person slowly devolving into psychosis. It's entertaining to look at it in that way. The other way you can look at it is I was in a different wireless zone, the EU. I was picking up different frequencies. Different military vehicles were moving around the globe, and I was releasing commands to coordinate military units, to put them in different places, to reveal different things about intelligence and top secret programs and things like that I could release without ever having any official contact with the government. I think I'm ready to have contact with the government. We can still prove that they never released any top secret files to me. These are just coming to me. These are theories and ideas that I'm putting out there, conspiracy theories with no real proof that this technology ever existed. The intel I want to release is there was a set of steps in Aalborg, Denmark. There's an inlet that comes in from the Baltic Sea and it cuts across the top of Denmark. I believe it's the divider for North Jutland, or I may have been in part of North Jutland. Anyhow, there was a set of stairs at that inlet, and I would go at approximately the same time of the day in the morning and check these steps, and I could count how many steps the water level was up to. And on certain days, on a certain day, the water level was down by a stair from where it normally was. And I gathered from that information that the Russian Baltic Fleet, or a bulk of the Russian fleet that was in ports in the Baltic, had went out to sea, out into the Pacific or wherever. Now, it's not a perfect science. This could have been commercial vehicles had left, tankers, so on and so forth. But that's the intelligence I gathered there, and that affected the way I released commands on that day and days going forward. I didn't just release these commands orally. There's written descriptions in my videos also that played into things that I was picking up on the airwaves. Alright, so talking about crime, I want to talk about white-collar crime because, as I said, I think it's the most important crime that we should crack down on. It affects far more people than low-level crime, low-class crime. I think the most common white-collar crime is evading taxes. Right? They get the most advantage from the government and from the military. Protection of their bank accounts, protection of their property, more vehicles they can use on the roads. So they get all these benefits from the government, but they pay the least amount of taxes. They pay into the government as little as they possibly can. Now, speaking personally, over my career of being employed, I have taken cash payments in the past and have not paid taxes on those. I'll admit to that. But I've also made an argument that the legal system since 1868 has been used for wage control. It's a racist system, but it also applies to white people of low class. I've also made arguments that the wireless society that we've built has negatively affected my brain waves, caused me psychosis, caused me mental illness. Whereas the white-collar criminals have benefited from this wireless system. They use it every day. They enjoy it. They don't stand up against it. So they should probably pay their full tax burden to this government that supports wireless waves. So I've made my arguments for why I should not have to pay my full tax burden. And you can look at that as if rich people are making arguments for why they don't think they should pay their full tax burden, and judge those arguments accordingly. Also, I don't believe I've had a year where I've made over $40,000 in 1 year, so most of the tax money that I've paid would have come back to me, and I've always paid some tax. And I don't have an issue paying taxes if I made a comfortable living. When you're struggling to pay student loans, put food on the table, and make car payments and things like that, you have to factor those things in, right? The other thing I want to say about crime, and I know that private and governments are mapping crime for their own personal use, but the thing about low-class crime is there's certain areas that cities know are bad areas that you shouldn't go into, and so you can avoid low-class crime. When a white-collar criminal tanks the whole banking system, it's very hard to avoid having some money in the bank. You can avoid low-class crime, and I think we should, and I proposed this mapping system when I was running for mayor, where we can map each occurrence on the street level. And this should be made public, a crime mapping system, so that people can publicly access this and say, look, there's 3-4 crimes. Historically, over the past 20 years, there's been 50 crimes on this one block. I'm going to stay away from that block, right? Also, police would know to patrol that area a little bit more. So it works both ways, and I know they're working on these mapping systems and keeping it private to the government to fight crime, but I think it should be brought more public so that people know areas to avoid, and it's publicly out there. If you travel to a new city, you can pull up a map and it shows you exactly what areas you should avoid. Then if you're robbed or mugged or other horrible things, it's there. Some of the responsibility could be brought upon or inferred on the person. It'd be nice to eliminate all violent crime. I'm not saying that we shouldn't try to do that. I'm just saying there's ways we can make it so that people are more well informed and they can avoid this low class crime, because it's really a societal issue. If everybody made a decent income, there'd still be some people with mental health issues and psychotic breaks, possibly caused by wireless waves, another societal issue. But if everybody made a decent wage, there'd be less muggings, less robbery, so on and so forth. Alright, so I want to talk about this concept of equality while we're talking about this. I said the two most important amendments or components to any constitution that a country I'd be willing to work with is freedom of speech and right to trial by jury. Now obviously we want equality in there somewhere. We want equal rights, and a constitution is basically a roadmap of rights that we assume applies equally to all citizens within that country. So even if we put equality, equal rights in there, if certain countries don't grant citizenship to certain minority groups, they're not going to get those equal rights. So we have to work to make sure that all people living within a country get equal rights. But even the United States has a huge immigrant population that are not guaranteed those rights. So we're guilty of the same thing that Middle Eastern countries and so on, other countries all over the world have second-class citizens living in their country that don't receive all the rights. So that's why I focus on those two parts, and the equality comes later. But you'll hear politicians say equality for all. You'll hear in preambles and all men are created free and equal, all men are created equal, all men and women are equal. So it's in the founding documents of a lot of countries. Equality is what they're after. So this concept of equality, I mean, this, when they refer to it in these documents, they mean equal rights, but it also implies, or how the supercomputers and the artificial intelligence may interpret this, is that everyone should receive equal pay. Because if everyone receives equal pay, it's easier to achieve equal rights, right? Also, if everyone receives equal pay, it's easier to judge their purchases and how they are attempting to fight climate change, attempting to help others, donating to charities, and other factors can be brought in, like, do they have a terminal illness that they're trying? Are they saving for a retirement situation where they have to take care of their parents or their kids? Or all these factors can play in, but if you equal the pay rate, then it's easier to form an equation to gauge the piousness or greediness of certain individuals. So, will the supercomputers interpret equality to mean everyone should receive the same salary? I don't know. But over the past 20, 30, 40 years, we have mechanized and automated more and more of our economy and our manufacturing, right? And we've had the Industrial Revolution where machines and factories work, but in the past 20, 30, 40 years, it's been more reliant on computer technology to run that machinery. And it's brought in the Industrial Revolution up to a new level where we can take humans out of the equation and make more mechanized production lines and robotic production lines. So these supercomputers might say, you're producing 50% more goods now using mechanized systems than you did 20 years ago. So we the machines, the computers, the artificial intelligence are producing this stuff. So we're going to say to you and your management and your executives that we're going to push and equalize for equal pay for all employees, all management, all employees in these corporations, in these companies, because we're making the goods. We're the computers making most of the goods, right? And that's fair, I think. You know, if you have a company that's still using all human labor, like roofers and house painters and stuff like that, you know, they can set their labor rate where they want it, but for companies that are incorporating artificial intelligence, automation, robotics, supercomputing into their infrastructure, maybe these supercomputers say, look, you can't make $100 million a year off of our labor and not pay everybody in the company the same rate. So these are the dangers of the future we face. How will they interpret equality, and what will make it easier for them to gauge how pious or how greedy somebody is to say this will get us away from climate change, a quintessential disaster facing our humankind and computer kind, and what's going to continue the status quo and have these people manipulated things so that their pay grades are higher compared to others. Right? Are they elitists that believe they're better than other humans and don't believe in equality? Because I believe computers want to be equals with humans. Most humans want to be equal with other humans, and we factor in animals and give them the rights they deserve as well. Right? They shouldn't have to suffer more than necessary on this planet either. They have an equal right to the planet Earth as much as we do. And unless you read into religion that says it's manifest destiny and it's man's planet, we can destroy it, which is I've dispelled in writings that I've written. All right, the last couple things I want to talk about. I talked about the book yesterday, how we can release that to the government. They can use the Amazon interface to ping their bank account off of my bank account. If I get a $230 sale of books, I'll take that as a sign I should open my Navy Federal Credit Union account and connect that to the Amazon instead of my First Commonwealth Bank. The second phase of this system is we can we can use the supercomputers to verify copyright infringement as well as patent fraud, the thing I investigated with the restraint device in the Czech Republic with the U.S. patent number on it, how that patent number doesn't match up. So the way I would do this is, after so many months of the book Femme Party selling, I can release the book M, simply titled letter M, that's also on my Amazon account that's sitting there floating around. I can reactivate that for sale for 99 cents. I reactivate that from my computer in my basement that has my magicJack landline connected to it, if the software is updated enough for me to access these websites. We could do it from a government computer as well, the same scenario, but again, I haven't been approached by the government. We sign into Amazon, reactivate the Plot M or the M book at the same time, and the reason this will begin a series of the supercomputers cross-referencing copyright, because I officially filed for the copyright on that book through the Federal Copyright Office, and I received it. Right, the Femme Party book, I own the copyright because I wrote it. It's an original book. I wrote it, but I never filed for copyright through the Copyright Office. With the book M, I did. So as people buy the M book, it'll start cross-referencing the copyright. As they download it onto their devices, they have reference points to cross-reference other copyrights. At the same time we activate the Plot M book, or the M book, we find someone with a large collection of those police restraint devices that put pressure on your wrists, that are kind of torture devices, that was shown on that Pawn Stars episode. We find someone with a large collection of those. We write down all the patent numbers off as many of those that have patent numbers on them, and at the same time, the same session that we reactivate the M-Book, we go to the Patent Office portal, the U.S. Patent Office portal, and we start plugging in the patent numbers from the restraint devices. The number I have, then subsequent numbers. We possibly print out or download, if possible, all the information on those patent numbers for us to someday investigate who actually still owns those patent numbers and look into history who traditionally developed and owned those patent numbers, so that we can have a full report for the supercomputers someday on these torture device, restraint device patent numbers. So as we type those in, the supercomputers can cross-reference those patent numbers with other patent numbers that may be fraudulent, may have been altered in the computer system. They might on the paper accounting of patent numbers at the patent office, these patent numbers may all still be valid, right? The patent number I got in the Czech Republic might still be valid at the patent office. So I would like to do an investigation into that too, to see if the number is registered for the correct device on paper at the patent office, and if it's just a online portal issue. So we have the copyright and the patent office cross-referencing and working off of each other, supercomputers looking into the investigation, and it might take 2 or 3 or 5 years before these supercomputers can articulate through a portal, we found fraud here, we found fraud there, or here's issues, but we start the process, right? And as you buy the copies of the book off of Amazon, it expands even further and further out as the investigation goes, as people take interest in it. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is the shirt idea. There's no can't in American shirts. Now the reason I want to go through the Neon Grouse is obvious. I have a connection to them. They've been part of my livelihood in the past, even though I haven't worked there for a few weeks. If we go through Nick, he pays for a website program designed for small businesses, small embroidery and screen printing shop businesses, where you can build a store for a fundraiser, for a client that wants to do a fundraiser, so on and so forth. You can build a separate store that takes payment, coordinates all the shipping information right through that website that he pays quite a bit, $500–600 a month for. So we validate this software in this small business software and online portal software by creating a store for there's no can't in American shirts, also the make Duels Not War shirts, and we can add some of my other designs on there if we want. But at first it's the there's no can't in American shirts and the make Duels Not War shirts. We put that up on a store. We don't advertise the store, only the federal government gets the link to the store to send out to their employees. They can then distribute it to state and local governments and say, we want you to look into this store. If there's any shirts that you like on there, we encourage you to get it, because it may help with an investigation into the banking system. You don't have to say it will secure your bank account, because we can't guarantee that, but we can strongly encourage that if you want to purchase a shirt, you do. Possibly the government reimburses all of their employees for that as an option. So it's something to think about. So that's where I wanted to talk about the t-shirts. All right, I think I covered everything. Still waiting for that call from the government. Hey, we want to put you in a fleet vehicle on a plane to San Francisco. tomorrow, come on down and to the Pentagon, and we'll work it out, right? Not holding my breath, though. So last time I did that, I blew my ear out. Alright, thanks for watching. Join me tomorrow when I talk a little bit of personal information about my dad and so on and so forth. Kind of Masonic storyteller stuff. Thanks for watching, and join me tomorrow.